afternoon, Dig South. How's everybody doing? Did you guys have a good lunch? Awesome, awesome. Great places to eat in Charleston. Well, welcome back for our afternoon session. A couple of housekeeping notes. Please visit that amazing NFT gallery. I've never seen an in real life gallery. Isn't it the coolest thing? I mean, I think it's really awesome. So please visit that. Guys, we've got a whole afternoon of sessions you're not going to want to miss. 4:30, our happy hour has changed. It's going to be right back in the gallery. And it's resilience is the theme. And if you've never seen a theremin before, I had to YouTube it to find out exactly what it is. You're not going to want to miss what's happening behind that curtain at 4:30. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to be either you can go to Hotel Emmeline for the Pantheon happy hour, or you can go to Bodega for the Office People Showcase happy hour. So you've got two options there. And again, pull out your cell phones. Take pictures with your friends, tag people, tag Dig South, hashtag Dig South, and just spread the message about this incredible event, okay? Awesome, cool. All right, so I get the honor of introducing the next speaker. Moderator Carrie Jaquith is going to introduce panel members for practical pathways into the metaverse and Web3. So Carrie Jaquith is a rock star, and she's the global head of product at ABAX Technologies, where she's leading teams that are building next-gen and Web3 augmented fintech and regulated markets. So Carrie, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Dig South, on 10 years. It is such an honor to take the stage on the 10th year anniversary of Dig. It's one of my favorite conferences. I always leave this space completely inspired by the technologies and the technologists and deep nerds that I get to meet here. It is a joy. I know we always come into these panels not quite sure who's in the audience. So I know we think there are probably some metaverse experts out here and maybe a few who maybe don't know. So I'm just curious. I think we probably all want to know who in the audience considers themselves to be a metaverse or Web3 Yoda. Anyone? Oh, all right. I like it. Well, you are in the right place because we've got an amazing panel to help get some of the others of you up to, I don't know, nerd level 100?
3.0.
3.0, yes. So with us today, we have Daniel Lehrich to my right, who is joining us from Netflix Gaming, where he's the general manager. And he's formerly of Magic Leap, which if you're a hardware nerd or a VR nerd, this is your friend. To his right, we've got Sean O'Connor, Chief of Staff at Block Native. And Block Native is doing incredible work building the building blocks for Metaverse and Web3. So if you leave here wanting to build something, this is your friend. And J.Rush is here. He's CEO and co-founder of Surreal. And Surreal is doing incredible work building out experiences with major brands. So if you have FOMO and you want to take your company to the next level and be like the very cool kids in this space, this is who you talk to. Gentles, if the metaverse and Web3 was a video game, what level do you think we would be on?
I think we said day 0, maybe.
Yeah.
The design phase.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Do you feel like day 0 gets reset every time there's a potential winter in this sort of ecosystem?
When would that happen?
Has that happened? Has there been a blockchain winter before?
Oh yeah, in 2017, most of the formative infrastructure that's now making crypto usable to the masses was actually built. And I believe if we are entering a winter, a lot of cool stuff's going to get built. People will go heads down.
So no, it doesn't reset. Yes.
It's in a constant state of reset, I think, right now. Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on and so many challenges, I think, that we're all kind of facing, each of us here that's on the stage in different, our own ways, I guess. But, you know, what we see is content really being the biggest challenge as we're thinking about the next winter.
I like it. Having played many video games, I think we can all admit that it doesn't always hurt to reset the level. What was your gateway to Metaverse? And you can, yeah.
I can go. Yeah, so I've spent the last 15 years of my life actually doing real live events like this. And so, you know, as we went into the pandemic, we had a lot of different options for virtual events and hybrid events. And a lot of them felt like fancy Zoom calls. And we knew there was a better way to start to experience, you know, each other and brands online. And, you know, back in 2020, nobody was talking about Metaverse like we are today. So when we started building out Surreal, it was really through the lens of, you know, how can we, you know, not make another fancy Zoom platform, but instead give people the chance to explore something that feels as photorealistic as possible or as unreal as possible, but still allows us to kind of freely move about and interact with each other, because so much of this is, you know, really centered on, you know, us interacting and not just passively consuming. So, you know, we looked at this through the lens of what makes events like Dig South so great and how can we bring that to people online.
That's a great, leading people across the bridge from IRL or meet space over to virtual space in ways that they can pattern match. Oh, this was this in this space, and this is how it might be in this other space. Super, that makes complete sense. What was your entry into the metaverse? What was your gateway?
Yeah. In 2017, I joined a really early stage project that was trying to build a collaborative sci-fi universe governed by things called NFTs. And at the time, we couldn't use that term because nobody understood it. That project died in the crypto winter, sadly, but it opened my eyes to the fact that we needed to build generalized infrastructure to actually onboard the next 100,000, million, billion people, because in 2017, 2018, it just wasn't possible to build consumer facing apps that were human usable.
That makes complete sense. Yeah. The reset and the iteration and the learning, all
Getting
good.
down to building.
All part of this, all part of the process. What was your gateway into the metaverse?
Yeah, so my background is in traditional gaming. I worked at Activision and Disney, a bunch of other places like that. And I joined Magic Leap in 2016. Magic Leap made a augmented reality headset, and I was leading up the content studio that was developing for that platform. And on the surface, making those applications felt a lot like making a video game. It's 3D things that are moving around in space and interacting with each other. But the potential of technology really with augmented reality is about bringing digital content into your real world and integrating with your real world. And so and also at the same time, I was working with Neil Stevenson, who was the chief futurist at Magic Leap, who actually coined the term metaverse in the book Snow Crash, and hearing his ideas about the metaverse. And we started talking at Magic Leap about a concept called the Magicverse. This was like 2017, 2018. You can go online and look up Magicverse and you can see all these diagrams. But Magicverse was this concept of layers of digital content on top of the physical world, and the ability to kind of move between these different layers depending on what you were interested in or what was most relevant. This layer is my art layer and this layer is my business layer, or this company owns it, that company. So I came into the metaverse sort of through the opposite way that I think a lot of people came through it. It was from bringing small pieces of digital to the real world, as opposed to what a lot of people are thinking about right now, which is bringing all the physical world into the virtual world.
So which is it? The metaverse?
It's both. I think it's completely both. And I think right now it is primarily known as these virtual reality experiences that are truly immersive. But long-term, you know, not to get too high concept quickly, the difference between a virtual reality headset and an augmented reality headset, I believe, will go away. I believe they'll be the same thing, and you'll be able to block your eyes or not. Magic Leap 2 has already announced that the lenses will dim and stuff like that. So I think the whole thing converges, and I think it's going to be the ability to move in and out of these layers to bring as much digital world into your real world as you want, or to transport yourself somewhere else. And the magic of that and the power of that is how quickly you can do that and how easy those layers are all to access, where right now that's not really possible. That's just my take, though.
It is totally possible. I think this panel would I think align with you on the possibility. The tech gets
But
really small.
what do you think?
Really,
Where are we at in the bell curve right now in terms of the headsets?
So, and I don't want to make this a headset talk, but just one quick anecdote. When I was working at Magic Leap and we were making all these Magic Leap apps, the part of my day that had the most friction, the most annoying part of every day, was when I actually had to boot up and put on the headset to check out the work the teams were doing, because it was such a long, complicated process. It was kind of delicate. It would break in certain conditions. And I think that the friction right now of putting on a VR or an augmented reality headset is still relatively high. And I think that needs to come way, way, way down. And I think you're seeing that with like what Snap is doing with their, their spectacles, and what Facebook is trying to do right now with Oakley and all that. But I think that we're really, really early. I think VR has been super hyped, and at least in gaming, you're seeing some games really break through and get really, really big. But I know a lot of people with VR headsets that aren't using them very much, and I think that's the trick, right? Is getting people in and getting people used to it, and I think that's going to take some time. But what do you think? I mean, you're looking at it every day.
Yeah, I mean, we see, another 10 years probably still before you get the kind of critical mass that you would want to have for headsets. But I mean, until then, along the way, it's going to be a layer, right? These things are going to exist in layers of reality. It's pretty hard to replace the convenience of your phone or the laptop that you're sitting in front of for 8 hours a day. And so, I mean, being able to consume through the browser over the web, I think, is key. But there's challenges with that as well, right? We were talking about this at lunch. I mean, this is kind of like a 1%er's problem, because if you don't have broadband, right, and you don't have a high-end gaming device, you're probably not going to be plugged into the metaverse anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, there's tons of challenges. There's infrastructure challenges. There's hardware challenges. And again, pipelines for getting content and networking to all speak to each other in a way that is consistent. Many challenges. Day zero.
Portability is a topic that came up in our pre-planning call, and identity has come up in a couple of the panels here already today. And when you think about identities in the metaverse, identities in centralized spaces, metaverses on centralized platforms, I have a hunch, I didn't run this question by this panel, but I have a hunch that you three might fall in separate camps on this question. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on centralization and the metaverse. Daniel, can you make the case for centralized? Is there a case for centralized metaverse or against centralization? Do you have strong feelings?
I'm going to defer to Sean as a starting point on this.
Yeah, I have.
Can you make the case for centralization or decentralization?
I can make the case for progressive decentralization. And I think that looking at blockchains like Flow, which is powered by Dapper Labs, NBA Top Shot, and they started very centralized, but they started centralized with trusted parties. So they let, I think it was Stanford, MIT, Union Square Ventures, and other people run nodes. So it was transparent who was running nodes and who was validating the blockchain, which is really important. And the pre-chain layer, how your transactions go from an idea in your head to actually becoming part of a public blockchain, is crucial, and it's complex. And by starting with a smaller number of trusted parties, it enabled Flow to build consumer APIs and make it pretty centralized, which lets you go buy a Top Shot with just an email and a password, and you upload your credit card, and they handle all that in the background. Now, they are working on decentralizing, which I think is an important thing to promote security and to promote a long-term vibrant ecosystem. But understanding those trade-offs and blockchains being public about the trade-offs they're making and projects being very transparent about where they're making compromises is a part of this emerging ecosystem.
The hybrid.
Yeah.
I love the
And
hybrid approach.
do your research.
Phased and hybrid. Nothing happens overnight. Do you have a?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about identity in the truest sense of digital identity, there's definitely kind of, Sean, where you were talking about, but when we think about identity in the sense of like come as you are, and how are you going to get into these different little metaverses, you know, whether it's a Horizon metaverse or any other one, we don't have that quite solved yet, just because there's just too many. I mean, you've got different rendering engines, you've got different layers of fidelity. So do you have to decimate a high quality avatar to get into one world or the next? Will there be one avatar to rule them all? Will it be a Ready Player Me system that's going to win, or is it going to be something more like MetaHuman and we're all going to have these really photorealistic versions of ourselves? Still too early to say, but I think the hybrid approach is right, because there's still a lot of big challenges to solve, both for the owner of that identity and then the creators that might be making things for you to display or to kind of accessorize yourself. Again, I'm thinking more aesthetically in the metaverse term, but yeah, I think hybrid all the way.
No battle royale here over it. Did you, now that you've had some time to think?
Well, not think. I just think
Yeah.
these guys are smarter than me, and I just wanted to know what they thought. I think that it wants to be decentralized. I think that the tech wants to be decentralized. I think that people want the kind of complete interoperability that decentralization implies. But I think on the other side, you end up with a moderation and a curation problem really, really quickly. I'm not even going to comment on what's going on with Twitter right now, but everybody knows what's going on there. And just in games that I've worked on, I worked on a game called Disney Infinity, which was a game for kids where you could kind of build like Minecraft, and everybody could build their own worlds and upload them and share them. And you know, there's a term in the video game industry whenever you're using user-generated content, which the abbreviation is TTP, which stands for time to phallus, and it basically indicates how long it will take for somebody to upload a phallus-shaped object if you give them a level creation tool. And you measure it in minutes and seconds. You don't measure it in any other way. And so that was inevitable. Now, granted, that's a closed ecosystem, kid-friendly, super whatever, but we've seen as a society that there are certain types of things that we may or may not want to tolerate. And I think that the decentralization and the moderation are going to come clashing together. And I am going to be really happy to sit on the sidelines and not have to figure out how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, and this comes up too beyond, I mean, just beyond identity. I think it just comes down to ownership, right? I mean, we do a lot of work with enterprise, and the enterprise is just dipping their toes into the water, with the blockchain. And so it's tough, if you're an auto, manufacturer, an OEM, does your car that comes off the line, is it minted? How does that go all the way through a customer journey? The company that's financing it, what's their role? Who owns what? And then there's just, creating your own kind of walled gardens for obvious reasons. I mean, if you invest in R&D and innovation and you've got customers, shouldn't that be your own, right? Is that something that needs to be open or not? Should you be in a metaverse where you can get blown up, or in a metaverse where you can meet with your customers? I mean, these are the kinds of things that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think the answer still is kind of try, I think, before you buy with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think the idea of identity, we all are just focused on ourselves all the time. So when we think about identity, it's only people, right? Well, no, it transcends way beyond that. And there's protocols today that allow you to take real world assets and turn them into NFTs and collateralize them, like Centrifuge is doing that work. So imagine if you have your crypto Lambo that you bought, and then you can turn that into an NFT and take a loan out against it. And then, oh, wait, can I bring that Lambo into the metaverse? Well, maybe, depending upon open standards, and that's why open standards win.
With that in mind, with some of these challenges in mind, how does someone in this audience dip a toe into this space? What's a viable experiment that someone can run? And if you don't have a viable experiment that someone can run, what's one that this audience should avoid? We love a good pro tip. We love it. We love a good, like, hey, don't do this thing.
Don't build an MMO. Don't try. Don't say you're going to do it in 2 years. Don't say you're going to do it with 12 people. Don't do that.
So that's a great point, though, just because, when we think about, Metaverse built on gaming engines, gaming platforms, and creating something that's going to be more than a ghost town in 6 months or a year. There's a ton of design, a ton of R&D, a ton of development that and teams of people that go into it. And I think this is where the paradigm shift is just beginning. And that is, this is a brand new channel. And if you're, from marketing or represent marketing in your organization, this is a huge channel. And it's one that you have to think about, like this event, for example, how many dozens of people worked on this just to bring this together for two days. You need armies of people to build your metaverse, to program your metaverse, to maintain your metaverse, and that's going to require some R&D. That's going to require some budget. So in that way, we see a lot of companies doing labs projects right now. So a lot of the work that we do is kind of future investment. What does this look like? How do we get started? Let's try. Let's start with a lab, and let's see how we can integrate some of our other systems into a metaverse experience.
I would encourage anyone who's exploring how to get into the space to potentially take a step back and go, how can we start really small? And how can we do this in a way that actually delivers utility to people? A lot of brands are launching NFTs, and most of them, I don't understand what they do or why I would want to pay a couple $100 for a JPEG. But then some brands are doing really cool, innovative work, like Adidas launching custom merch for the Bored Ape Yacht Club community, or Disney launching their own NFT that if you hold, you get a year free Disney Plus, and then you get discounts on parks. And like, oh, cool. Like if my family loves Disney, then I understand why purchasing this could be something that's a long-term investment and provides value.
Yeah, I would say on top of all that, the metaverse and NFTs are related technologies, but they're two different things. And that might be obvious to say, but you don't have to be getting into NFTs to dabble in the metaverse, or vice versa, I don't think. The sort of contrarian answer I would give is, looking at it from the complete opposite side, I would kind of argue that, with snap filters and things like that, you're kind of entering into the metaverse from the opposite direction. You're also seeing people make like things where I can try on sneakers with filters and things like that. And I think that is, in the long run, I can imagine people creating their avatars as filters that apply on top of them that you see as easily as I can see them creating completely separate, 3D virtual beings and things like that. And you can see a lot of brands doing really interesting things with those kinds of activations, much lower barrier to entry. And because it's social, if you can get, virality, there are people with billions of views on those things. So, on top of everything that these guys are talking about, it's a completely other way of, I think, starting to dabble in these things.
Yeah, and with Instagram's recent announcement of enabling NFTs, it's not too far until, say, Dig South dropped everyone an NFT for attending the conference, and then that gives you a custom filter on Instagram that you can post out, and only people who hold the NFT can get that filter. Like, that's probably months away.
Tokenizing is a super interesting space. Whole separate, another panel.
The rabbit hole
should happen.
Is deep, and just figure out where you want to start.
Where do decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs fit into how you're thinking about this space? Or not
John.
fit?
Yeah.
Do they not fit at all yet for you?
Oh, no, there are lots of DAOs, which are, think of them as like the co-op or community-owned organizations, but token governed. And many DAOs are dropping NFTs. Many DAOs are starting to dabble into the space. Some crypto native games are actually set up as DAOs. So if you play the game, you can earn tokens that give you ownership in the game itself and potentially, royalties to future cash flows. I would say DAOs are super early, really fun, lots of exploration and collaboration. And there are opportunities to join service DAOs like Twali, or look at Gitcoin, where you could actually earn money for participating in the ecosystem and get tasks. There's opportunities to join artist DAOs. Really, like, figure out what gets you excited and then Google that plus DAO, and you'll probably find something cool.
Do you think that potentially social good focused DAOs are a doorway for businesses who are risk averse to try and get a toe in this space? Does it give them exposure to the token space? Does it give them exposure to Web3 plus social good?
There are a lot of service DAOs, and the idea of public goods is one that resonates really deep in crypto communities, especially the Ethereum ecosystem. And say like Gitcoin, I'll refer back to them again. They raised a tremendous amount of money from crypto enthusiasts to go towards the Ukraine relief effort, and they continue to try and launch innovations in public goods. And one way for a brand to get started would be maybe just do a grant on Gitcoin to fund some public good, and you could offer some bounties for people to contribute to pretty much anything. And that's a toe in the water, and just having your organization figure out how to hold crypto on the balance sheet will be a worthwhile endeavor, and will take a couple months.
Or more if you're operating in a regulated space. The land of no. Can we try this? No. How about no? We have two great questions from the audience that came in on the app. The first was, how can the news media be an early adopter in Metaverse or Web3? Have any of you worked on news media or maybe infotainment as an entry point?
We're early on some work with major, I can't really say who it is, but the idea that, news media, whether, that sort of like daily 30-second update is something that we all rely on, and it's really convenient, right? I mean, what we have right now to get information is as convenient as ever. So how do we do that in the metaverse in a way that extends value to the way we normally consume it is something we're starting to look at. Where real-time weather simulations, and again, we're a photorealistic metaverse platform, so we're all in on trying to make things as photoreal, even if it's a unreal environment, as possible. And we think that there's an opportunity in the future, and it's when we get to a place where interoperability is, we've got some more bridges than we have today, where you could log in and I hate to say MySpace, but think of it as like MySpace. You get your 30-second weather feed, you've got your sports, you've got your news, you've got your investments, you've got your office tools, and then from there you can kind of gateway out into the different little M metaverses that you've got to explore for the day, whether it's for work or for fun. And so with real-time production and the pipelines for real-time 3D, whether it's Unreal Engine or Unity, there's opportunities to pipeline those real-time forecasts, which can be curated for you in your real life or your metaverse experience for the day. And so that's what we're starting to look at now is how do we integrate those things. And then obviously there's opportunities to connect that viewership from a traditional web model to a 3D model where what the weather's going to do is going to influence maybe where I shop or what I might be buying online that day. So yeah, it's early still, like so much of this stuff, but we've got to find ways to conveniently wrap it around the user in a way that doesn't feel like a gimmick. And that's the current challenge right now.
Good answer. Yeah. Hopefully if you're in the audience and that was your question, you got some golden nuggets for how to think about bringing news, like traditional news, to these virtual spaces and semi-virtual spaces. We had another great question about real estate in the metaverse, like virtual real estate. And this is a really interesting space. We've seen real estate in video games for the last maybe 15 years hold real world monetary value. They've been a store of value in some ways. So what are your thoughts in how real estate is positioned in the metaverse looking forward?
I remember as a kid, my cousin selling Counter-Strike skins and games. So gaming assets have always held value, but only when there's a vibrant community around it. And for real metaverse real estate, like my first question is, what's the community around this and why are they vibrant? What's exciting about that? How are they using these assets? And then, go from there.
Yeah, I think real estate in virtual worlds and gaming is a tricky thing. It feels a little different to me than some other in-game things because real estate is the physical location in which all the game takes place. And if you're creating a finite amount of it, and you're auctioning it off and you're creating a lot of scarcity around that, then you are really tightly controlling who controls where you can have experiences in that space. And there are examples of massively multiplayer games. Ultima Online is an old one, if you look that up, where they tried to sell real estate and they tried to sell a limited amount of it. And it was well documented in ways that it really broke the economy and the games in ways that they weren't expecting, because people were doing things with the real estate other than using it in good faith to make the experience what it was supposed to be. It was speculative and things like that. So I think that there's a real challenge there when you're trying to create scarcity and you're trying to create value and stored value, and you're also trying to create an open, fun ecosystem that everybody can kind of come into. And so thinking about that really carefully and really looking at the past, like a lot of people are coming to this with first principles, but a lot of people have tried to do a lot of this stuff in various ways without blockchain, without metaverse. Like it's been tried before and people have succeeded and failed. And I think there's some really good cautionary tales out there for everybody if you're thinking about taking something like that on.
Let's make new mistakes.
Exactly. I love making new mistakes.
If there was one concept you could leave with this audience, because I know we're coming up on time, is there anything you'd share with this audience as a takeaway? I always, as an audience member, love a good takeaway.
So I won't say that every company will be a metaverse company, but I would say that every company is probably going to need to be a gaming company on some level. Not to say you're going to ship, wonderfully popular games, but I would start investing in hiring people who can develop on Unreal Engine or Unity, artists, because you're going to need these folks on your team sooner than later if you want to build out experiences, something that's going to be unique, that's going to have value. I would say start thinking about how you're going to become a gaming company.
Question for the audience. Who here knows what SMTP protocol is? Raise your hand. Okay, so like 10-ish%. Who here sent an email today? Raise your hand. Cool, just about everybody sent an email. So you used SMTP protocol today. It's what enabled you to send an email from iMail to her, and she received it in Gmail, and it worked, and it was interoperable, and you didn't really think about it. We're still building the SMTP protocol for Web3. We're still in the protocol design phase. And if you are going to launch a product that you expect humans to use, think about the end user experience and make sure it's really easy, simple. Be sympathetic that there are people who are really busy who probably don't care about your product or your brand all that much. Like, why would they care? And start there. And if you can build from there and build a simple user experience, you have a chance at actually building a Web3 enabled product that people will go hands-on with.
I love that. Probably the highest number of fights I saw on the floor at IIW in Menlo Park last week were between humans arguing over how far to abstract away from the core code identity. Just who are you? I'm me because I'm on this stage, because I'm in this geolocation, because I'm holding this device. I'm me because of all of these data points and the abstraction layers that we all make human to human. You know me as Carrie. That's probably the biggest fight I saw, and it's like the biggest opportunity when you think about how far away SMTP has been abstracted to just be a button that make new message, make send. That's a huge opportunity space. Totally see that. What's if you could leave one thing with this audience?
Good luck. I don't know. No, it's kind of self-serving to agree with Josh. Hire smart gaming people. I think that the reality is that you're making a game, whether you think you're making a game or you don't think you're making a game. And that where I see from my vantage point, the most kind of hubris and things going is when people, like I was talking about, like are sort of just reinventing the wheel and kidding themselves about what they're doing, or they're trying to take themselves more seriously. But gaming is a shorthand for interactivity and making interactive things feel satisfying, and that they're going somewhere, and like that is the complete feeling and infrastructure and value you want to put into these kinds of ecosystems for them to grow and sustain in the long run.
And what do you do in gaming a lot before you actually build the game?
you
prototype.
like, yeah, build stuff, see if it's going to be fun, make a plan, pitch people, try to tell everybody why it's going to fail. I'm doing a lot of that right now because I just got sucked into a big company a couple of months ago. So I'm learning that. But yes, you got to have a good plan, and you got to convince yourself it's a good plan, and you got to test that plan out before you just jump into the deep end. But that's just life.
There's no shame in a paper prototype. Like there is no shame in role playing stuff out before you engineer it. Like please do that. Please
Design
don't engineer
thinking for
first.
the win.
This has been so much fun. I don't know about you. Super honored to be here for the 10-year anniversary. Super thrilled to see your smiling faces in this audience. Thank you for sending in amazing questions ahead of time. Thank you to this amazing panel of humans who I basically just want to hang out with all day. And
And thank you,
video
Carrie,
games.
for
Thanks,
leading
Carrie.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Thank you.